Do mid-tower cases bore you already, and are you looking for something new and fresh to house your brand new components? Why not check the Tecware Quad V2? So welcome back again to Junkyard Summit, and here with me today is the all-new Quad V2 from Tecware. You might have seen this from my previous 150k build montage, but I'm here today to do a closer look and at the same time do a full review on it. Compared to the first quad iteration, besides both cases being boxy, the version 2 has an all-new upgraded look and at the same time updated internals that fixes a good number of problems which the original quad suffers. But before I go to my review, I just want to give Tecware 2 thumbs up for upgrading their foam material to a better quality one. Might not be a big deal for others, but these small upgrades are what makes a company good in my opinion. Going back, the Quad V2 is priced around 3,300 Philippine peso. While not as cheap as compared to their budget cases, the structure and materials used in it really justifies the extra cost of this chassis. You could easily get one through various local retailers, but if you are not sure where to get one, you could always ask Tecware Philippines Facebook page for the nearest retailer in your area. And since Tecware is a brand that caters most in the Southeast Asian countries, getting one outside of the said countries is not entirely impossible, but it might not be easy and at the same time could be costly. The Quad V2 is a 32.6 liter case with dimensions of 370 by 280 by 315. Quite big if you are considering this for a small form factor setup, but still small enough compared to your average micro ATX tower case. Comparing this to the size of the original quad, height and width-wise of these two are almost identical, but the V2 is around an inch or two longer than the original. The case is also a bit heavy, so be sure that your table is sturdy enough to support it. Similar to the old quad, color variation of the newer model comes in black and white. And since this is an all-metal chassis, you are guaranteed that the white paint for this case won't have the yellow staining in the future. Again, like the older quad, the Quad V2 is a micro ATX case, so motherboard support is limited to MATX and ITX form factor, with CPU cooler height restrictions of 170mm, while GPU cooler length is around 315mm. Stock cooling is pretty good as Tecware included a 200mm fan for its front intake and a 120mm exhaust. Besides those two, you could also attach two 120mm fans at the top or a max of 240mm radiator if ever you plan on using an AIO. Magnetic fan filters are also included for the front, top, and bottom. Psu support is not a problem since the bottom chamber of the case is mostly dedicated to it for a maximum length of 200mm, and alongside the PSU are support for 4 3.5-inch and 4 2.5-inch storage options. It's been quite a while since I saw good storage option on a smaller case, and it is a welcome feature, especially for those who are still running lots of storage drives but doesn't have enough space for a full tower case. IO selection consists of a power button, LED indicator, a reset switch, audio and mic jacks, as well as two USB 3 Type-A ports. Exterior-wise, besides its form factor, the Quad V2 is a far departure from the original quad case. Gone are the acrylic sides and top. Plastic materials are also ditched in favor of an all-metal design, making this case really heavy and sturdy. The mesh front from before now features perforated square designs that extends on top of the case, giving it a minimalistic modern look which personally suits my taste. There is an inch of a gap between the front panel and structure itself for better airflow, but I do think they could lessen or remove the gap altogether for a more compact design, since the perforated square itself are more than enough to provide decent airflows for the components. One thing I did notice, though not really a problem, but it seems removing the front panel is not possible, which is kind of a bummer considering the modding potential of this case. Side panels are now both tempered glass with a thickness of 3mm, and you can secure these panels by sliding it like a traditional side panel with thumb screws at the back, making the side area look clean and seamless. One issue I encountered though is that one of the metal brackets that secures the tempered glass drops off every now and then, and it might be an isolated case, and hopefully Tecware would address this problem maybe by using better adhesive or do a different approach altogether. Moving to the interior, again, this has a top and bottom chamber. Starting at the lower section, it is a nice thing to see a case with 4 3.5-inch storage bay, even though it is not too less. The 2.5-inch bay on the other hand is a mixed bag for me. On one hand, it is a nice addition to have 4 slots for it, while on the other hand, the mounting style doesn't feel too right and was not properly considered. Attaching drives would require you to stand them horizontally while screwing it only on one side. Accessing the screw holes is on the bottom side, making this tedious as the case is already heavy on itself. Psu support is great. A cutout for fresh intake can be seen here, paired with the 10mm tall of rubber feet, while the other space for the lower chamber can be used to tuck all of the unused cables, which is great if you are still using a non-modular one. The top chamber is where you'll find the rest of your components and is as expected. I do notice though that there are some hiccups with the cable management. The CPU 8-pin, while has a cutout underneath, the cable itself will extend outward, resulting to a tight squeeze with the side panel. Cutouts for a bottom-placed SATA is also an issue as you are limited to a flat end and at the same time an eyesore to your video card display. Other cutouts are included for other cables, but keep in mind that you need to pre-plan your routing to avoid the hassle of unscrewing the motherboard every time you wanted to pass through something from the cutouts. The usable PCIe cover is also included, which is a big plus in my book. Cooling options on the other hand is great. The case supports up to 170mm in tower height, but keep in mind that if you plan on adding another fan on the top, the height clearance will be cut by as thick as 25mm, giving it only a 145mm in total height. As for the top area, a mounting support is included for easier radiator installation, but here lies my first problem. The distance of the CPU to the topmost area is too short for the tube length of the AIO. Though unlikely to kink or break it, the positioning of the tube will look a bit awkward and not nice to look at. The included 200mm fan offers great airflow for the entire case, but it would be nice if Tecware would change the connector from a 3-pin plus Molex connector to a 4-pin PWM one, since the extra bulk of the Molex connector is unnecessary and the fan itself is a little bit loud, so having a smoother control on it would be nice. The other 120mm included fan also suffers from this, and personally, I just get a better replacement for this one. Illumination is also absent on these two fans, but I do hope Tecware would sell or even upgrade the 200mm one to an RGB to give lighting options to those people who'd want to showcase their setup. Moving on to temps, at stock, temps are already decent, only maxing at 79 degrees Celsius for both the CPU and GPU. Do note that both of these components are overclocked and at the same time stress tested, so expect gaming temps to be much lower than this one. Surprisingly, just by removing the front magnetic fan filter, we see a huge 7 degrees drop on our 3500X and a 2 degrees drop for our GTX 1650. But do note that removing the front fan filter would result to increase in dust buildup as the front intake is just a huge circular cutout. Unfortunately, I could not compare this with the other cases that I reviewed before since the test setups are a bit different, but moving forward, I'm planning to do a normalized test setup for temperature testing so I can do a compilation for all of my case reviews. So for my final thoughts, at 3,300 Philippine peso, the all-new Tecware Quad is a unique case on its own that offers stylish looks and at the same time a decent cooling even at stock configuration. Few upgrades on the 200mm fan, such as improving its noise and at the same time switching it to a PWM connector, would be a welcome change. Another recommendation is to add a Type-C front header for better I/O selection and at the same time screw holes in the front to support multiple smaller case fans and at the same time 240 or 280 radiator support. I do also feel that covering the lower part with a solid panel would be a good idea to cover the PSU cables, especially if you don't plan on cabling it neatly. But all in all, I really like this case and you should definitely consider this one if you are looking for a smaller than a mid-tower chassis with a minimalistic look. So that's it for today's video. What are your thoughts on the all-new Tecware Quad, and also do you agree that this is a huge upgrade as compared to the first iteration? Comment it down below, and finally, if you find this video helpful, go hit that like button and also do subscribe to my channel for more case reviews like this one. Once again, this is Brain of Junkyard Summit. Thank you, stay safe, and see you in the next one.